Life gets hard sometimes, so grab your weighted blanket and let's talk about it.
Hello.
I love that. Hello, and welcome to Weighted Blanket Happy Hour. How is everybody? Good, good, great, wonderful. I'm tired.
Wow. Yeah, it's like, do I miss live audiences or do I like having control? Hard to say.
Do I miss people, or am I having fun isolating and not talking to anybody? A little column A, a little column B.
Yeah, because I don't know about you, but like, woof, humanity. Like, you think that like it has a bottom, and then you're like, nope. Look at this pandemic. There's a whole other bottom to the bottom. Here we go.
I agree. I am so sick of everybody and everyone and everything except for like 3 people.
I know, and it's like,
all cats.
I miss all cats. I miss all my friends' cats. Yes. 100%.
Oh,
yes.
I love it.
Well, welcome to our weighted blanket. I hope you are enjoying some sort of a beverage, be it alcoholic or tea or coffee or sparkling or just water, because water is really important, right?
Water is extremely important. I forget to drink it all the time, and then I do that thing where like I panic chug like half a gallon, and I go, that's not good for me either.
No, not at all. Like I was like, okay, I have these 3 random water bottles, like big ones, and I'm like, I'm going to make a point of drinking these along with the big cup I drink out of every day. So I was actually drinking the amount of water you should be drinking. And I was like, wow, I'm like not tired. And like, I feel like my brain it's like when my brain was on caffeine, but like not as jittery. And I was telling my athletic trainer boyfriend, I was like, whoa, like being hydrated is really great. And he's just like, what have I been telling you this entire time we've been dating? What am I even here for?
Oh my God, that's so funny. Yeah, I don't quite get that effect from it, but I do notice that like my skin gets a lot better when but my thing is that like I cannot establish habits for the life of me. Hello, hoo-hoo, ADHD. So it's like I'll have one week where I'm really good about drinking water, and I'll be like, ooh yeah, I'm hydrated, I'm a healthy person, and then Sunday happens and I don't know, I just forget again. So drink water is the moral of this intro, everybody.
Yes. Drink your water, especially summer's coming up. Hydrated summer. Who cares if you're hot? It was the pandemic. Just be hydrated.
Yay!
Yay!
Well, we have some sponsors and things to promote, do we not?
Oh my gosh, do we ever? Well, first I do want to say like thank you to everyone who has been messaging and texting and like just going out of their way to tell us about how they found us and how they've been listening to us and that they've been enjoying it, because this has been a thing that me and Jackie have been working really hard on for a while now. So it's been really great to hear from everyone and hear that it's been having a positive impact on people during these not so positive times.
Did I tell you, your friend, I don't remember his name now and I'm terrible, but your friend who called you during a wine night friended me on Facebook just so that he could Facebook message me and be like, oh my gosh, this is such a fun podcast. You guys are hilarious.
Oh.
By the way, I'm so-and-so. I'm Julie's friend. Sorry if this is awkward. Okay, have a great day. Bye. And I was like, this is the exact wholesome interaction that I want from Ben.
Right? Yeah. Yes. Seriously.
Good,
yes.
Good on that guy.
Yes. Thank you. More of that, please. Just in the world in general. Like, there's just so much negativity, and like it's just like my philosophy is like it's just easy to be nice. It's just so much easier to be nice to people. Just to, like to get, and not to like like be a pushover, but just get along with people and like just like your friend's status, like send someone a random tweet or TikTok like, hey, you're doing great today. Like you like, it's hard to realize how a small courteous thing like that can go such a long way, because you don't know what people are going through during the day. So
yeah, I completely agree. As Grandma Joanna always said, there's never a reason to be hateful and there's always a reason to be nice, which like sounds like such a grandma thing, but also like it's true and you can apply that to your life.
Let's bring it back. Let's bring it back. All right, we can't put off these promos any longer, but we must.
I'm excited to do them. Why would we put them off?
Oh my God, we're not recording a commercial right now, but I like your enthusiasm. But my friend's company, Aqueous Wellness. She is self-made. Oh my gosh, she is a successful Latina. She is successful. I'm originally from the North Shore. Can you tell? She is a successful Latina business executive and entrepreneur. Aqueous offers premium grade water-soluble products. They're crafted using this cutting-edge nanotechnology, which sounds like something I would have failed in high school science, but we're here. It's okay. It's a CBD delivery system. So that means it just goes like directly into your bloodstream, and you can just feel these effects of the CBD 5 times faster than with a much higher bioavailability. I didn't even know that was a word. Even though I know I've said this before.
It sounds like a cool buzzword. It's what did I say last time? Like, I need some bioavailability.
Yeah, you do, girl. Yeah, you do. She just got vaccinated. She is vaccinated and bioavailable, y'all. It is non-GMO and vegan, which my athletic trainer boyfriend is a fan of. It is, they are just a company committed to providing the finest CBD that the market has to offer, and you're supporting a women and Latina based company. So check them out, Aqueous Wellness. You can visit their website at aqueouswellness.com. Use our code WBHH10, that is WBHH10, and get 10% off. I think I need to use that now because my CBD levels are low, because this first quarter has been a doozy, just like getting through my promos.
Do it, girl. Get that CBD. Thanks. You can also, hey, do you like us? Do you want to give us money? What about like $1 a month or like $5 a month? Well, there's a venue to do that because we have a Patreon. Yes, we do.
Yeah, we do.
You can cut this. What is the fucking URL, Julia? Wait, no, it's
Patreon. It's Patreon. People just Google search Patreon. Like, who need, like, honestly, like, I hope for our people listening, like, just know that this is our service, our community service. This is our community service. PSA. You don't need an address. Just Google it. Go on.
Anyway, but like when you get to, we have a Patreon. When you get to Patreon, search Weighted Blanket Happy Hour, and you can support us with $1 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month, $15, or if you really love us and are like our grandma or our aunt or something, like $25, and you get different things at different levels. For $1 a month, you get a shout out in the intro after you join. For $5, you get a shout out on the podcast and Instagram story, a logo sticker with a handwritten note from us, early access to episodes, and the things keep going as they go up. I'm not going to read all of them because you can go read that yourself because you're a smart and capable person, you listener.
So smart. So capable. Yeah, and I mean, it's not like we're just doing this to get beer money, although beer money is always nice, but you know, we've got a lot of really big plans and ideas, and it does require a form of, shall we say, cashola. And also, you know, just the whole moral thing of like art isn't cheap. Art shouldn't be free. Like, and honestly, like, it doesn't even have to be like our podcast. There are other podcasts you'd probably listen to that have a Patreon or have a GoFundMe. Like if you have $1 or $5 to spare, like, it's just like with like complimenting your friends or sending nice things, like a little bit really does go a long way. To transition this, we also take cash, credit, or card. No, I'm kidding. But we also on Anchor, which is where we have our platform. We are able to also accept donations there as well, which is really exciting. Right now we have $1.28 from Anchor. And I feel like we're on a lemonade stand.
I know, right? It's just like we made a whole quarter from our advertisement.
I know. Listen, I've gotten tips that were less than that, so I will take it gladly.
Really?
Oh, girl.
That's such trash. Are you kidding? Oh my
I
God.
literally had like a bill one time that was like $120, and I'm not kidding. They paid you in $1 bills. Do you know how big that stack was?
I imagine you threw it everywhere and like made it rain, but like.
Oh, no, it was like the shittiest, like most crumpliest, like sticky dollar bills, and it
Worse.
It reeked of weed. And like, listen, I love me my edibles. I am all for it, but like, this is not what I want to be carrying around in my apron at a fine dining seafood restaurant, okay?
Oh no, that's horrible. Oh God. Anyway, so don't do that. We prefer electronic money instead, and it really means a lot.
Germs.
Even if you just send us $1, it's like, you know what? That's a nice gesture. Thank you. So that's good. And as always, like, comment, subscribe. Particularly if you can leave a comment on like Apple Podcasts or whatever. That's actually a really great way for us to like drive up viewership and listenership. So if you have time and you like the podcast, please leave a review.
Yeah. No, we want to, you know, get everybody in on this conversation. I mean, like our guest today, our first guest, David Weiss, I think that just knowing that there are people out there that like want to talk about this and have things to talk about, like, it's exciting and it's comforting. So we want to keep this podcast growing, but we need the help of our audience members like you to accomplish that. So thank you to listening to us beg and grovel. We are also on the gram and the book and the tweets. If you know,
a great way to say that.
If you know, do I sound like a Gen Z yet? If you know what those are, you know how to find us. But I do want to give a shout out to a couple of our friends who have been commenting with us. So we had that post the other day that was like the difference between a panic attack and an anxiety attack. My friend Michelle said definitely have experienced both. The difference between a panic attack triggered by my phobia and an anxiety attack triggered by generalized anxiety is stark. It's like, yep. Like, you know, if you only have to experience one in your life, you're lucky. But if you have to experience both, I am so sorry. Hold, let me find one more. I had another person who commented that, like, I was like, what gives you anxiety? And she was like, parallel parking in Chicago during winter. And I was like, yep. I have no desire. And then so we've got this really great review from Lil Dean. Fun and relatable, funny, smart, concise, and only a little scary. Thank you.
Thank you, Lil Dean. Thank you. We agree.
That's how most people feel when they're around me. Like,
only a
smart,
little scary.
she's
Yeah,
concise.
No.
She's funny, just a little scary.
But like, she's funny. That's me.
She's just like a little intimidating, but that might just be the patriarchy teaching me how to be afraid of strong, tall, confident women. Whatever.
Yeah. Same. I'm also very loud, so people are like, you're really intimidating, and I'm like, I'm not. I'm just boisterous.
Just saying, like, I was literally thinking this the other day. You know how many people have told me, like, Julia, you need to like tone it down a little bit, and I'm like, I'm sorry, unless we are at a movie theater watching TV in a library, stop telling women to be quiet. Stop it. If I was a man, you'd be like, oh, he's so confident. Oh, he's so bold. Oh, he's so funny. But no, I'm a woman, and you think that I'm supposed to be like at a 6, but my natural is at an 8. Get over it, Deborah.
Deborah. Well, all of this has been really great and a little anxiety-inducing, but Julia, don't panic. You want to know why?
Why?
Because it's time for the ads.
Thank God.
The medicines. It's just like mid-roll transition. Okay,
Okay, David, I'm going to attempt to introduce you now. You are a first guest, and we are so excited to have you, not just because you are a friend of ours, a very talented actor in the Chicago theater area, as well as a very talented dramaturg, writer, and amazing graphic designer. And you also designed our amazing artwork.
Yes, he did.
And
Yes, I
like
did.
literally like anytime like I post it on the gram, it like always gets more likes because it is that perfect. So
And you not
thank
only did the main version. We were like, can you like maybe do some stuff and like incorporate these elements? And you gave us like 3 options, and we were like, yes, we'll take all of these.
And then the true pièce de résistance of David's creativity is that we did not do that to get, like, Jackie and I were not in the same room when we took those pictures. He was able to take our bodies in the pictures that we sent and make it look like we were actually talking in the same room. Like, just genius.
The
Genius.
Photoshop skills, the fact that I demanded that a cat be incorporated into the thing.
Oh, and you sent me like I want to say 5 different like cat photos. Like, so you gave me options too, which is great.
We have a lot of
please.
cat photos between the two of us.
This is accurate. But yes, welcome to Weighted Blanket Happy Hour, David.
Thank you.
So-
Hi. Thank you for having me.
We're
Oh
so
my God.
excited.
We did it. We made it. We're here.
We did. I know. So let's start from the beginning. Like, as my therapist said in my first meeting with her, what brings you here?
I mean, I guess I wanted to, be part of it. I did the graphic design, and you all, sorry, we can take this again. Like,
Yep.
Whatever.
What are you looking
great,
for in my
right?
answer? See, I'm already like,
We're
No.
being casual. Just like
I love that. No, let's talk about your history with anxiety. When did that
Yeah.
bitch start?
okay, gotcha. Okay,
You're great.
How long have
You're
you
great.
been a nervous wreck? Tell us truly.
cool. Awesome.
We can't
Are
cut any of this.
We're not
This
cutting any
is
of that.
Pure.
No.
I'm the
fucking
editor. I say it all
gold.
stays.
No.
You're so relatable right now, David.
Oh, God. I'm just like, I just want to get it right. I just want to give a good answer.
And that's anxiety.
Yeah,
Yeah,
tell
and
me
there
more,
it is.
Tell
So
me
I mean,
more
I
about
guess
that.
I guess that's what brings me is no, I mean, like, even when you invited me to like be an interview, like I did the graphic design, and then you invited me to, be a guest on the show, as part of it. Like, the first thing going through my head was like, am I going to be a good guest? Like, am I the right person for this? Like, will I be able to come up with an interesting thing to talk about? And like, what if like, I don't do a good enough job, and so it undermines like what they're trying to create? And like, like that's both ironic and completely appropriate, I guess.
I was about
I
to
was
say,
like,
I'm like, it kind of
let's-
sounds like it's perfect.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
let's use this. Don't be ashamed. Let's, as we like to say in our jingle that was made by Jackie, let's talk about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and I think like as far as where like feeling anxious started, like that was kind of the big thing for me was like as a kid, I was very much like kind of a weirdo loner kid who I was off in my own little world. I had a super active imagination. I still do. But like as a kid, I like wasn't super social. I was like the kid who would like sit under his desk and like doodle during class. And like the teacher would like come over and like I would always be able to like answer the question she was talking about because I was still listening. So they just kind of let me get away with it. Like my brain constantly sort of let me get away with being the weirdo because like it was still able to retain. But so it wasn't really until like middle school when like I started to like mature mentally and emotionally and like started making some friends and like first discovered like doing acting as like a thing I really liked, in some kind of like grown-up capacity, not just playing pretend as a kid. And like it was only then when like the stakes started to feel more real and I started feeling like other people were involved in my world. That's when I started to find myself getting like really in my head and overwhelmed and anxious about stuff, was because it, like this, it was a little bit like, I want to do the thing right. I don't want to mess it up. I don't want to let other people down. I don't want to let myself down. Like the more I cared about like concrete things in the world that weren't, just imaginary playtime stuff, the more I really just like started to, get in like a circular kind of like, oh God, but what if I, and what if that? And like my imagination at that point started to turn into a thing that was like an endless, like it just started manufacturing endless scenarios of like how it could go wrong or how I could let people down or like mess something up. And so it, that creativity was like, as they say, a double-edged sword. Where
I was about to say, isn't it ironic that like people who are drawn to the arts are often so anxiety prone, and the character we create is the character of us fucking up.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because like, I guess I'm lucky in that like, for me, I don't get super big anxiety about like performing in front of other people, like in and of itself. Like I'm not one of those people that like public speaking, is like the big fear of a lot of, otherwise healthy adults. For me, that was never an issue. Like public speaking, I'm fine with. Having attention on me, I'm fine with. It was something about like when it started to feel like, oh, other people are depending on me, and so I can't mess this up. And if it's something new or different, or like a wrench gets thrown into it where like my preparation needs to adjust, then I get like super thrown off and in my head, and I can go into like an anxiety cascade. That's kind of how I think of it. Yeah, that's the term that's the sexy sounding English major term that I came up with.
Cascade.
Is just,
I like that. I say spiral.
I do spiral. Can you like what is involved in an anxiety cascade? Paint me a picture.
Sure. Yeah, I know.
Tell me about this waterfall.
I know, it's a beautiful vista of downward feelings. No. So like the way it tends to go for me is like I'll be in a situation, usually one that like I had prepped for and like felt pretty on top of, and then something goes off the rails. Like something, it doesn't even have to be something big. It's like something small and unexpected happens that like renders my previous preparation kind of moot, and I'll kind of start to feel, a little overwhelmed, and I'll freak out a little bit. And like my gut reaction in those moments is like a 5-minute panic response where like before I can process and fully deal with what's going on, like this is why I could never be a stage manager. This is why like I could never be one of those folks, because they have to immediately snap into problem solving mode, put out the fire. I will compartmentalize the, whatever emotion I'm feeling and deal with that later because we have to do a thing. My brain starts immediately freaking out about it and going like, oh God, and I start feeling overwhelmed and like my anxiety spikes. And that causes me to get kind of like shaky and unfocused, even if I'm trying to deal with the thing. And then I become aware that I'm not my best self in that moment. Like I become aware that like I'm not quite handling it as perfectly as I should, and I'm kind of freaking out, and other people, and like if it's collaborative, other people are seeing me kind of freaking out. And that self-awareness, because I'm terminally self-aware, like to an absurd degree, like it means that like as I become aware of my behavior being less than ideal and other people noticing that my behavior is less than ideal, that just compounds the anxiety and self-consciousness and like freak out mode that I was already feeling. And so it kind of snowballs from there, and then it just kind of cascades from like one level of that to another until I'm kind of just like a nervous wreck for a few minutes. And like my brain and body like kind of has to like purge that initial panic or anxiety response before I can like calm back down, settle back into myself, and like deal with the thing, I mean, and like I'm usually able to deal with it like pretty okay, but like there are times where like it just pops up at inconvenient moments, and I'm like, oh, my colleagues are seeing this is not the ideal thing for someone who wants to be a collaborative creative person, because it's like that's part of it is like it's a community, and like we rely on each other, and like you want to know that like a person isn't going to like that you're working with isn't going to like, fall to pieces at the drop of a hat. And like the good news is like as I've gotten older, I've gotten better about it. I've gotten better at managing it most of the time. Like if there are larger circumstances where like I'm going through a really stressful period in my life and like I'm super tired and like it's a particularly stressful situation already, then I'm more prone to it. I think Julia, you can speak to this a little bit. Like you and I did a show right before we all took a train to pandemic land. You did it. We were in a show together, and it was in the it was set in like the 70s and 80s, which meant like it was a whole, there was a whole hair situation. Like everyone was on very distinct and beautiful hair journeys in that show. And for whatever reason, I think it was because your hair always looked immaculate, to be blunt. Like it looked amazing every time. No,
Thank
like I don't know
you.
what you did to it, but like I just kind of gravitated and unconsciously like appointed you my like hair helper. Where like before, like
I was about to say,
like,
Julia, didn't you do like 3 people's hair in that show?
oh my god.
It brought me so much joy. No, like, yeah, I just remember like finishing my, and like just David coming up behind me with like a comb in his hand, just being like, would you mind helping me with this? And I'm just like, yeah, babe, I got this. What's your vision? What do you need? Yeah.
And it like wasn't even a hard thing. It's just that my hair's not that manageable. And like, it was like, that was an example of like, I like was feeling kind of anxious about that character and like, oh, do I really fit this role? And like, are people going to buy me as this dude? And so like my brain did the thing that it sometimes does that like, it's kind of a coping thing, but kind of like, I don't know, where like I just hyperfixated. My brain was like, I'm going to hyperfixate on your fucking hair. I'm going to because it is a concrete thing that I can see and I can touch and I can manipulate here in the moment. And so that's where I'm going to direct all of this like uncertainty or anxiety or insecurity that you're feeling about like the performance of the role overall is like, if I can get the hair right, that's a thing I can control, and then people will buy me as the character when I come on stage because the hair looks right, and the rest of it is just gravy.
So you're an over preparer when it comes to like, that's how you cope, that's how you mitigate. Like people have different ways of like coping with like their anxiety cascades or spirals. So like yours thing is like to over prepare and like overdo and put in the work so that you don't feel anxious beforehand, would you say?
100%. It's like if I can prepare for like every possible contingency I can think of, again deploying that imagination, if I can prepare for as many potential contingencies as possible, then if any of them crop up, I've already got something good to go. It's when I'm forced to completely improvise in the moment that like, for like a contingency that I just didn't foresee happening. Like something happened or something went down, and then I'm just like, oh God, what do I didn't prep. It's not on the list. What do we? And then it's just like a malfunction.
Yeah, I always find that because like my anxiety is the same way. Like let's plan for every awful outcome possible, and like let's just stress you out so that you're on edge and you're prepared. And I have just started telling myself that, like, if something bad is going to happen, it's going to be something that I would not have seen coming. Like, yeah, like, you know, I could run through the scenarios and run through, like, the ifs then. But if it is something that is going to be truly horrible, like something that would actually, like, give me a panic or an anxiety attack, I would have no way of planning for it. So, like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Sometimes that comforts me. Sometimes.
No, that absolutely. And I think like I've gotten better about accepting that to a degree, but there is also like a comfort blanket feeling of like, I've got at least the main contingencies locked down. Like I've got at least like, you know, the less I have to completely fly by the seat of my pants, the better. Like that's like, this is why I'm like the only white male in Chicago that never once joined an improv troupe. I'm a unicorn in that regard. Like I never did it. I never wanted to do it.
Thank you for your service.
Right? Like, I mean, like beyond,
denying that.
I mean, right? Like, yeah, just beyond the fact that like, it's already, you know, a pretty flooded ecosystem. Even beyond the social service of it, it was just like, that's not a fun time for me. Me getting up on stage live in front of a group of people with another group of people relying on me, and I've got to roll with stuff that we're not expecting. That is my fucking nightmare. And I have to be funny while I do it. Like anytime I would try to do improv stuff, I would be quiet the first half because it would be my brain running through the options and trying to compose ideas that I could deploy in the second half. Like anytime I've been forced to do an improv exercise for like an acting class or something, that's where my brain goes. And I'm just like, to pay to do this? You want me to pay to do this willingly on a regular basis? Like I would rather like, no. No.
Honestly, fucking same. Because like I tried to do improv because like I like being funny. I like doing comedy things.
Oh yeah.
But it was I completely concur because I did the exact same thing. I would just stand there and be like, I could say this. I could say A, B, or C. Which one is the funniest one? I don't know. And then by then like the scene has moved on, and it was.
Right.
So I completely concur. But it's funny though because I also hate feeling underprepared, but my mode of coping is completely opposite of yours, I'm noticing, David, because my thing is that
really?
like I'm like, oh no, I'm underprepared. Oh no, the preparation of preparing, the work of preparing is so overwhelming. And then I just don't prepare. But I hate feeling underprepared. So like you might like I don't know if one of those coping mechanisms is better than the other. But it's so funny that like that we both have that same fear, but like we react differently. So there's lots of different shitty ways to manage your anxiety.
Right?
It's a spectrum.
That's your version of the cascade, right?
There. My waterfall is like way more rocky, and like there's a bunch of like fish falling down and screaming. Like
It's just a landslide. It's just a landslide.
Right,
There
right.
we
It's just
go.
a bunch
It's a
of it's a bunch
mudslide.
of it's just a bunch of loose like those like rounded off water sanded rocks. It's just a bunch of loose rocks like that just falling. Yeah, no. It though I mean, I will say I am definitely also prone to like the procrastination response. Like that's another way that like
tell us about that.
Oh, I mean, like that was another way that like all this, like outside of like me having like panic attacks, you know, while trying to do theater, like there was also like the procrastination response that started popping up, especially once I got to college. Like once my time was my own and my schedule was kind of my own, and like when I worked on things was not as tightly regimented, or I didn't feel as accountable because there wasn't like an authority figure in my living space the way there was with like parents. I would start putting off stuff that stressed me out or was giving me anxiety. And so like I became the king of last minute papers and last minute research and because like, again, my brain is like this beautiful gift and curse in that regard, that like my brain's really good at quickly internalizing information and, putting out, lots and lots of language, as you might have noticed. I would be able to like do last minute late night papers. If I have to write a 5-page paper about a book I haven't read because I was doing theater rehearsal and never got around to reading the book because the thought of doing it stressed me out, I could skim the book, pick out the general themes and story, find some applicable quotes, reverse engineer a thesis that was supported by that information, and then turn in a paper that got an A, and do that at like 4 a.m. the morning before it was due.
You are describing my entire school experience. That was every paper for me, so I completely get it.
Right? And like that's the thing, is like our fucking brains let us get away with it. Like that's the problem. Like it's a good thing. Like we didn't crash. Like I only ever crashed and burned once, and it was, of all things, writing like a final paper in like a horror film class, like analyzing I came up with this like fever dream idea of like haunted houses in movies being an extended metaphor for the immigrant experience in America. How like it was all about
I need to know.
It was like all about how like it's haunted house movies. It's always a diverse group of people entering this new place, and they're bringing their hopes and dreams into it, and then those hopes and dreams get turned against them. And like it was a cool idea, but I couldn't make it. I didn't have the time to like pull it together and make it work. Like the inspiration, right?
I was
Like
about to say, I'm like, that's not bad. Like in terms
No.
of like bullshit thesis that you could come up with. I'm like, actually,
Right?
no, I could see how that would make sense.
Right? Like that's the thing. My brain usually can come through with something like pretty decent. It was just at that point, it was a longer paper than I had time to like do the full research on.
Yeah, no, I used to always joke that like I was just really good at bullshitting. Like I got really good grades, and it was just because like I was just really good at like stringing 2 sentences together and using big words and sounding smart and just being like, oh, what's the example text? Like where's the example that I'm based? Let me just recreate, like me just take this formula. And it wasn't even that I was like, what is it when you take a word of text and you claim it that it's your own? What's that called?
Plagiarizing.
Thank you. Plagiarizing. Don't edit any of this. I am perfect. I am perfectly imperfect.
Yes, you are.
And so it wasn't that I was plagiarizing, but I was just like, well, this person literally wrote the book on this. Why don't I just take what they said and just like reword it and just make myself, and then, give them credit, but also is like, I'm not like actually putting quotes into my papers. I am
You become
recycling.
you become the monarch of like paraphrasing other people's quotes, or like putting good long quotes and like double spacing. Did y'all ever do the thing where like you just make the periods of a paper like 14-point font instead of 12-point font?
That's brilliant.
Oh,
That
I was
is
lucky.
disgusting and brilliant.
I was lucky that like something about like the visual of it bugged me. Like it's not like an OCD thing, but it was just like I am an audio-visual person, and so like if I change the margin or change the spacing or like bump up the text 1 point, it just looks wrong to me. And I was just like, I'll know what I did.
I have a reoccurring anxiety dream where it's like finals week, but in my head I'm like, but it's the first day of school. Why is it already finals week? And I don't know what my class schedule is. And I'm like running around my old high school trying to find my biology class. And I realize that like I've been skipping French for the last, and it's always French too. I've always been like, and like honestly, like French for me was such a blow off class because I could memorize 20 words in French and like not pay attention during the class and like still get an A. But I'm like, but I wasn't there. Like I didn't get participation points, so I'm gonna fail this class.
Why is that such a common anxiety dream of like, oops, I accidentally skipped half my classes? Because I have that one too.
I mean, I think it's kind of what we're going back to of like it's that anxiety. I think it's like a big anxiety trigger of like I made a mistake, but I didn't even realize I was making it. And so I'm now, or like I didn't prepare as much as I should have, and I didn't realize that I didn't prepare. And now I'm being caught like off guard. I mean, you know, like it's the real, because like I think it perfectly combines like unexpected circumstances with, but it's still definitely your fault. You know?
Yeah.
I think that's what
my thing, yeah.
Yeah, my school one definitely, like, it used to be, I used to have server anxiety dreams. Like, I would have anxiety dreams about, you know, the restaurant that I used to work at. And then when the pandemic started, it shifted over to school because, you know, I was working and I'm still relatively new to, like, an administrative office job. And I wasn't, like, feeling 100% confident in myself in this role while so many other people in my company were getting laid off and furloughed. It was just like I don't know what to expect next. I'm not ready. Like, we've got this pandemic going on, this health crisis, like people are dying. Like, I don't know why, like, it was like a lot of like imposter syndrome, honestly, of just like, I don't belong. Like, I'm not ready for this.
Sure. No, definitely. I mean, I think the pandemic has done a lot of interesting things for anxious feelings. Because I don't have any of you had this where like, there was a period where I definitely like started freaking out about people not properly distancing or wearing masks in my dreams.
Oh, you were having pandemic
like, so
stress dreams. Oh my God.
No, but like they didn't start out that way. It would be like I would be having like a random dream of like, oh, I'm, you know, in a theater doing a play, or like I'm in this situation, or, you know, I'm in a spy thriller, or like whatever the dream was. And then like at a certain moment, my brain would be like, they're not wearing their masks. Are you wearing your mask? Did you forget your mask? Wait, how far apart are we? Wait, why are all these people here? And it would just kind of like, it would go from there. Ooh, also, sidebar, you have not lived until you have a full-blown anxiety attack waiting in line to vote in a small enclosed area in a line that's stuck for like 20 minutes without moving, and no one knows how to social distance, and half the people, including like the voting administrator people, aren't wearing masks over their noses. It's just like hanging out. And like you don't want to leave because like you need to vote today, and like you don't want to waste the time, and like you've already like stayed long enough that you're like, well, if it's happened, then it's happened. But like, oh boy, yeah, I like had a full blown like freak out, like where I was just like standing in place, sweating and like flapping my hands around like a I don't know, like a weird boneless chicken person, and everyone was just like, what is happening with this dude? Like I sweat through 2 masks. It was it was gross.
That's sweaty.
It was real gross.
That's sweaty.
Oh God. That, I mean,
Yeah.
so that sounds like your preparedness coming out. we tend to talk about like, you know, when we get in spirals, waterfalls, cascades, like whatever, like what like we talk a lot about like what do you do to mitigate that. So like from your personal view, when you're in one of these many like, oh God, the thing is happening that I'm not prepared for, or it is a thing that I prepared for and I knew would go wrong, how do you try to calm yourself down and make it seem not so world-endingly bad?
Yeah. I mean, part of it is like basic like physical stuff of like try to breathe, try to slow your breathing, try to listen to your breathing and regulate your heartbeat, like focus on tangible physical things. Some of it is trying to break the scenario down into little pieces of like, okay, what is the first concrete thing you can do to deal with the thing that is happening? Even if it doesn't solve the entire problem, what is step one in the direction of solving the problem that I can take? So, you know, like if my hair is freaking out before a show, I turn to Julia and go like, hey, how does it look in the back? Do you have hairspray to fix it if it does not look good in the back? Or like, yeah, so I think part of it is breaking it down into pieces. Part of it is honestly just trying to control what I'm feeling enough to reach out to the people around me, like leaning on the collaborative aspect a little bit, like trying to like trust that like other people will be empathetic or understanding or caring enough that like even if I'm not being like the chillest dude right now, trying to hope and trust that like the people around me are good enough folks that they will see a human being in mild distress and like do what they can to like help guide me through and like help me with it. So leaning on others is also, you know, something that, you know, is the positive side of, you know, collaborative anxiety, I guess, you know, is that like it means that there's a support group around you right there ready to go that are equally usually invested in making the thing work and like solving whatever needs solving. You know, they have a vested interest too. And, you know, oftentimes that empathetic response and like my own empathy of like, okay, they're a bit calmer, they're a bit chiller, helps to kind of like, helps my system simmer down, you know? And something that a lot of my adult life has been a journey about in this regard, I found is that like, because my amazing brain was so good at like providing me with like cover for what I was going through and like giving me, you know, all the angles, a lot of the journey as an adult is realizing that like no matter how many imagined scenarios or contingencies my brain can come up with, there are still going to be some that it just flat out doesn't think of and it needs another person to tell me, you know, trusting that like, you know, your brain, you haven't actually thought of every possible angle on this thing. You haven't thought of every possible way of thinking about it or way of approaching it or way of, you know, parsing out the thing you're struggling with or the thing you're worried about. And that like you can, you know, I can do that thing when I'm by myself where like I pace around and I'm a big pacer and I'll pace around the apartment and I'll run through every possible thing and I'll legitimately feel like I have thought about the issue or thought about the thing that's stressing me out from every possible angle. And I'm still stressed because so it feels like an insurmountable problem. And half the time, all it takes is like a 5-minute conversation about it with an outside human, with like literally anybody other than myself, to be like, oh, that's a perspective I didn't think of, you fucking idiot. Like, talk to other people. So like
yeah, I was gonna say sometimes too, like the anxiety can just feel so real in my head, and then once I like verbalize it to another person, sometimes I'm like, oh, that's maybe not as realistic as it was in my head.
Oh, you like talk yourself out of it.
That is very true. I have definitely done that where it's just like, but I'm worried about XYZ. And then I'm like, and I realize that sounds dumb. And then it's just like dot. And I realize that sounds dumb. Yeah.
Oh, God. No, those are beautiful moments when you like ellipses yourself into better mental health. You're just like it's just you say it and then you pause and you're just like, okay, and we've de-escalated. Damn it, that was actually simple.
I see what you mean by the phrase terminally self-aware, which, by the way, terminally self-aware, great name for a podcast.
Oh, my God. Or a punk band.
Or a punk band, yes. With just all of it, it's existential music, like the entire album.
Oh, yeah.
There's a demographic for that, for sure.
There absolutely is. It's called Gen Z. So, okay, I'm looking at the clock. In our last 10 minutes, Julia, do we want to include David on what was your self-care this week?
Ooh. That is brilliant. So David, at the end of every episode, we like to talk about like what's been your most recent self-care. And we can do our examples first.
Please, yeah.
Do you want to start? Or I have one. Do you want me to start?
Go. Yeah, you start, I'm thinking.
So on Monday, I was having I did an impulse thing. I did an ADHD thing. On Monday, I was having a really stressful day at work. It was just a lot of shit that was happening at once. Things were being thrown at me. And like David, I'm kind of like you, where like I don't really like when things just keep getting thrown at me. Like I like, being able to plan out like how I'm going to pace myself and do my work. And things just kept getting thrown at me, and it was really stressing me out. And when I got the stimulus check, I put it toward my credit card. But then that left a bunch of room on my credit card for activities. And I was like, I'm just going to buy myself something. You know what? Screw it. Like I just want to buy something that I've been meaning to buy. What have I been meaning to buy? Video games. So I literally went on Target. I never spend this much money on stuff that's just for fun for me. I went on Target.com and I just like ordered a Nintendo Switch for pickup. And then after work, I left the house at 5 p.m. I got on a bike. I rode 3 miles up the road to Target and I picked it up. And on the way back, I realized that like having a $300 piece of equipment strapped to a divvy bike by a jumper cable may not have been a great idea. But my self-care this week was just like, for once in my life, buying something that like wasn't quote unquote productive, or that wasn't quote unquote like, a personal growth thing. It was just something fun for me that I wanted to do because it made me happy. And all week I've been playing Breath of the Wild and having a wonderful freaking time.
Oh, I've heard Breath of the Wild is like a beautiful anti-anxiety journey.
It is phenomenal, my dude. And like, I'm not even necessarily a huge Zelda person. Like, I've played a little bit of Ocarina of Time and I've played a little bit of like some other game, but like I'm not very familiar at all with the lore because like I was never really allowed to like video games as a kid. So now as an adult, I'm like, screw it. I like video games. And like, I'm getting into the lore, and it's been lovely. So that was my week. Who else had self-care this week?
I have been I've been questioning myself a lot, and that doesn't sound like self-care at first, but I don't prioritize my self-care. I'm always like, I have all these chores, I have all these errands, I have to get work done first, and I always just feel burnt out. And I just started asking myself, like, I'm sorry, why does the order matter? Like, why do I have to do work first and then play afterwards? Why can't it be? And it's like, well, like growing up, like that's how I was rewarded. And I'm like, yeah, and where has that gotten me? Diagnosed with anxiety and depression. Like, let's try something different. And so whenever I start to feel overwhelmed with like my to-do list, of just like, there's just too many things going on, I don't have enough time, I'm not going to be able to get to do the things that I like, and I pause and I ask myself, like, what do you want to do right now? Like, what do you want to do right now? And then immediately, my anxiety brain is like, oh, like I have to do the things. And I'm like, I don't want to know what I have to do. What do I want to do? And like sometimes like I need rest. I need time away from my work. I need time away from the screens so then I can come back and like, yeah, I am up for doing this audit now for work. I am up for sending this email. I am up for queuing up our Instagram. And I'm trying to make a habit of catching myself when I'm putting pressure on myself and asking myself, like, does this actually need to get done right now? Or am I allowed to have a moment of being relaxed and doing what I actually want to do in this moment?
That's really beautiful. Also, David, as you can see, self-care can be anything opposite ends of the spectrum. So
it was either that or playing with my cats. So
equally valid.
So what about you? What has been your self-care recently?
I guess like some of it has been just like trying to like force myself out of my comfort zone on like what kind of shows and like media I'm consuming, like watching stuff that's like wasn't like my standard fare, just like different genres, or like a little like something that like I'd heard about and thought, oh, okay, people said it was good, but I don't know if it's for me, and just like trying like a sampling of those out. And like some of them I've really dug and like I'm gonna watch more, and some of them I was like, okay, not so much. But like I don't know, there was something very kind of like nice and freeing about like, I don't know, taking like the buffet approach to like shows and movies and stuff, and just like trying stuff a little bit different. So like that was nice. I've also like been kind of trying to start exercising again, like after a long slump in the pandemic where like I didn't really take care of myself physically at all.
It was so hard this winter because gyms were closed, workout classes were canceled. Like I'm more out of shape than I've been in my entire 20s, so I completely understand.
Yeah, no, that was definitely why I didn't do it either, because the gyms were closed. No,
Well.
No, it was, I think, the hibernation impulse, the hibernation instinct was in full effect. I was all about, what is it, the hygge, the like, it's like a sweet, it's like a European, like, cozy comfort winter hibernation feeling aesthetic. But, like, I was all about, like, cozy comfort clothes and cozy comfort blankets and cozy comfort food and scented candles, and like it was very nice and very tranquil, but it also just meant that like it was very sedentary and I turned into sediment. So I've been trying to like actually start exercising a little bit again. So in the most literal sense, I guess that is self-care.
No,
It
good
is.
for you. That's valid.
It is. It always feels great afterwards. Yeah.
And another
Does
interesting perspective. I don't feel great after I exercise. Everyone always talks about like, oh, you get the endorphins, you get the dopamine high, you know, because you get the, and like maybe I'm just not there yet. Maybe I haven't crested that particular.
I was gonna say
peak.
you have to do it like 10 to 20 times, and then it starts feeling good afterward.
That's too many. That's too much of a weight. Nope.
Yeah,
Nope.
yeah, that's
long.
the thing. So no, if it feels good afterwards for you, then good for you. For me, I'm just like, I'm gonna lie here and stare at my phone for an hour now and like wait till I feel better.
Yeah, I'm trying to work out less to like lose weight, like look a certain way, and just know that it's better for me and my anxiety and depression in the long run. Like,
Yeah.
like it's been like my emotions have been all over the place because I'm not working out as regularly or as hard as I used to before the pandemic. And I'm like, look, we know that this works. We know that when you're pumping iron and you're sweating, you emotionally feel better. Not about working out, but just about like your general self and view of the world. Like, let's just we know it works. Just do it.
Isn't that the worst when there's like a thing that's like not easily doable, but straightforwardly doable, and you're like, you have to still bully yourself into like, you're like, you know, this helps. You know, you feel better after this. This shouldn't be a discussion, brain. Like this isn't actually a debate anymore. Like we know scientific method style that this does in fact help, and yet it's still a debate every time.
It's so hard. Brains don't always respond to logic. It's so difficult. I totally get
It's
it.
too true.
Yeah,
It's too true.
yeah.
Well, David, thank you so much for
Being our first guest.
being our
Thank
first
you.
guest and setting the bar so high, and just as
Yay.
always being a fucking delight, and just having another way of being part of this podcast that Jackie and I have been enjoying doing so much. We could not have done it without your help.
No, of course. Thank you for letting me into your little podcast world. I'm glad to have been here.
Yay.
Excellent.
We're glad to have had you. Okay, do we want to do the sign off real quick, Julia?
Oh God, let's see what happens.
All right, stay safe.
Stay sane.
Same time next week. See, you did
Hey.
it. You got it.
Sounded good.